Hi team. So a bit of a wild one today, but I think I got there in the end. And when I say wild one, it's on a few tangents, right? So I go left, right, I go with whatever comes to my mind. And then we'll talk about having your cake and eating it today. That's just off a conversation I had yesterday. And we'll go through it. So bear with me on that bit. Bear with me because you're still going to get some insights. There's still some cool metaphors. There's still some good things to think about that's going to help you just align back with the standard that you wanted to achieve rather than taking on other people's. But it's the last 5 minutes today that I learned and got an insight for me off the back of what I was saying. And the reason I'm pointing it out is because I just want to speed up your learning, right? Because if I speed up your learning and you learn quicker and you take better action, you can come back to me and say, Don, this is what I've learned. Can you now go into? And I, yes. And then we work for each other, right? So enjoy the episode. I appreciate you. You're amazing. Keep smiling and let's keep rocking at life, okay? Yeah. You're not just a number, you're important. So that's why I always ask people to reach out, because then I know that I can humanize it a little bit more and connect. That's what the whole thing's about. Have a great day. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your host, Don. And not Ray this week. It's just me. So I've got my iPad here to make it look like I've got notes for the day. And hopefully if you can see there, I'm going to open up a blank page to, actually it's not a blank page, it's got writing on it because I may or may not have planned it. No, in all seriousness, what we'll talk about today is just a little bit about having your cake and eating it. It was a recent conversation I had yesterday with someone. I found it fascinating. In the meantime, a little update. There actually isn't anything to update. I'm really focused on trying to make sure that you guys get this message. I was trying to think about failures to tell a story today. I was trying to think about, willpower and discipline, and like, how does that still play a part? And I was listening to some Jim Rohn stuff. Do you ever get those moods, times just where you don't necessarily feel like listening to a book, you don't necessarily feel like listening to music, but you want to listen to something? And I often find that and this might be your best practical tip or takeaway for the day, and then you can stop the podcast after this, is reminding, like listening to mentors, and they don't have to be real in life people or people that they can be anyone that has some sound advice. And Jim Rohn he has some really good thoughts and insights, and some of the stuff he says, I'm like, oh yes, built that, understand that. And it's really cool progress, because when I first started listening to him about 2 years ago, all of that stuff was like, oh, but can I actually achieve that? Oh, is that possible? I didn't, maybe that's not for me. Whereas now, when you listen to similar episodes, he starts to talk about discipline and where it leads you and how you take this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yes, I see that. Yes, I see that. And it's awesome to be able to know and be able to reflect, perhaps a better word, that I have been on a journey and I can recognize growth within myself. But you guys, you probably wouldn't see anything, right? The best kind of change. Anyway, listen to a motivational speaker, not motivational, like someone that talks a lot of sense, but he says it in a way that you enjoy listening to, not about like, go out there and, go and smash walls down. Unless that's your kind of thing, then go and do that. So just try and think yeah, I was in that mood this morning. So woke up to go to gym. Actually, my alarm went off and I was like, oh, do I prioritize sleep this morning? It'd be so nice when not. But I realized that you may relate to this. You can shift around a gym session if a run, a walk, your holy hour. If you let's give that word. Have you got a holy hour? Well, I'm on many tangents here. Have you got a holy hour for yourself every single day? If you haven't, put one in. That holy hour can consist of gym, running, meditation, swimming, journaling, just time for just you. If you haven't got one, start doing that. If you don't have an hour, start with half an hour. If you don't have half an hour, wake up earlier and get your half an hour, right? There's going to come a point where you have to start somewhere. But here's the thing with that holy hour. And let's say gym at the moment would be my holy hour, is as long as I can get it in, I'll do it. But where it suits me the most is to wake up really early in the morning. And I'm not going to give a time because I don't want you guys to feel like I'm boasting or setting an expectation, whatever works for you. But this morning, my alarm went off. And I was like, oh, how important is more sleep and restfulness for my body, because that's a priority, versus getting this gym session. And so I was like, okay, sleep's actually quite a priority at the moment because I've been feeling a bit tired. Okay, where else and this is all going in my head where I'm like trying not to drift back to sleep or trying to wake up. Where else in my day could I fit this gym session in? And I need to carve out about 50 minutes per gym session. And if I'm going to the gym, it's 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. So it's about an hour and 20 minutes in total, maybe an hour and a half to round it off. I was like, I could go late tonight, as in 8 o'clock, finish 9:30, cool. But what if the kids, we want to get them to bed later because the clocks are turning back? So is there afternoon slot? No, I've got the kids this afternoon. Cool. So helping Ray get some work in. I want to look after them, spend some time with them. And then this morning, have I got a slot in between my day where I can just maybe even do a home session? I was like, no, there isn't, because I got to record the podcast, right? So then I just decided to get up. But the thing about the holy hour is we, in any sort of structure or things that we give for ourselves, we try and make them so rigid that if we don't get them done, we get frustrated. So imagine if I didn't go or overslept or whatever it was, the rest of my day, I'm like, oh, I didn't do it this morning, so therefore I can't do it. And actually, you start to learn to get a bit of agility in things that you do. So I went to gym first thing this morning because there was nowhere else I would have been able to slot it in. But if I had, like let's say tonight, I decided I'll go to gym tonight, immediately I can go, okay, I can rest and I'll still get my holy hour. And maybe the principle, before we move on to eating your cake, is don't try and start something in perfection and think that it has to be so rigid that everything else has to work around it. Because everything's changing all the time, including you, your schedules, your rituals, all that kind of stuff. So actually, maybe just break your day up and like, I've got 8 hours total, 10 hours, whatever it is, and see, if I can't go at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, can I go at 8 at night? And you start to find solutions instead of looking for reasons why not to. Because often people say, I don't have the time. It's like, we'll challenge that first of all and say, you always have the time for anything that you make a priority. So actually, it's like, just recognize it's probably not a priority. It's okay, work on that. And then if it's a priority, you always make time for it. So if you don't make time for it at 6 a.m. and you don't want to wake up early at 5 a.m., then maybe it's an 8 o'clock thing. And try and start with that, because if you're waiting to like, I'll start that next week, and we often do this, right? I'll start that next week when this is over. I'll start that in 2 weeks, and it makes complete sense. Genuinely, it's like complete understanding. It's wrong, guys, right? That's a chimp at work, having its way, staying in its comfort zone. If it's a priority and you decide it's a priority, make it a priority. Right? Just get going. Even if you start smaller, it doesn't have to be an hour gym. It doesn't have to be half an hour gym. It can be 10 minutes. It can be 5 minutes. Start to build a rhythm. And I've been speaking a lot about it this week. So I thought, if it's spoken about a lot in the week, it's obviously pertinent to speak about to you guys. So start a rhythm and start it smaller than you think to keep a rhythm going, because eventually, the same way you start a song, 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chords, and you get to the chorus and you play, and then after the chorus, you go back down. Maybe try and think of the rhythm that you're building as a song, where it's got these ups and downs and flow, and you build it up, you whack it perfectly, and then you go back down, you calm down, you go. Maybe that's the rhythm of life that you've got to try and build, even in performance. High performance is rest, recover, perform, rest, recover, perform. It's all about those ups and downs. Helpful tangent? Cool. It was helpful for me. So I just wanted to have, it was a relatively short podcast today, just on breaking that belief of you can't have your cake and eat it. So like says who, I know that I've mentioned this in previous podcasts and perhaps in Raison, but last night someone was, they're potentially going through, or they are going through a career change, and they were considering their options, right? And this is the funniest thing, is they're not there yet, but they've already decided, can't have my cake and eat it. That's what I want, but I'm probably not going to get that, so I'm going to settle for that. And I was like, let's just challenge that for a second. Why can you not have your cake and eat it? It's because we fall into the narrative of others that have gone before us that have tried and failed, or tried and not had the support around them and failed, and gone, well, I wanted that, but I couldn't get it, so therefore I just settled for this. The word there is settled. They've settled. And I just said to him, I said, just make sure you're not settling. Like, you've got this amazing opportunity to go after what you want and get it, right? And that's often people go, oh, you're setting people up to fail, and you can't just say go after things, and you can't do this and you can't do that because it's unrealistic. And it's like, hold on, I think there's an assumption in that narrative on both sides, as in the assumption when I say I'm going to have my cake and eat it, that it's going to happen, right? When, I don't know, that weird nod. When someone says you can't have your cake and eat it, it's because there's an assumption that you're not going to work hard enough to get it, or that what you want, it's not going to happen. Here's the challenge with you want your cake and eat it. Like, if in the future you think that anything is possible, like people achieve things far greater than they thought they could ever achieve, and they go, "Wow, I can't believe that I've gotten to where I have." Like, if I look back, I never would have thought I got here, right? That means they've achieved far greater than they can imagine, which means that that is possible. So, if you can imagine a life that it truly works for you and that you want to achieve, then go after that. Do you know what I mean? Then challenge the assumption that if you're that person that wants to have their cake and eat it, then all we have to point out is the assumption is, if you want something that really suits you and it's a lot to get, then understand that the assumption is you're prepared to work your butt off for it, and you're prepared to be determined, and you're prepared to go to lengths that not others that have tried to get the same thing before you have not been prepared to go through. And immediately we say, yeah, of course I am. But actually just think about that. You have to have that vision. You have to have that thing that means something to you. But the thing that makes it more achievable is perhaps buying into, as an internal motivation, what you're willing to go through to get that. Because I think sometimes we don't think about that. So when it starts to happen, oh, I didn't know this was part of it, I'm done. Is try and think of as many reasons that you would stop along the way. Try and think, like, what are the risks? At what cost does it come? And when you find the things that you're not prepared to do, it almost creates a level of acceptance of, like, okay, that level is achievable because I'm prepared to give up all of these things. I'm prepared to go through things. Or actually, I see that level there and I really love it, but I'm not prepared to do it at the cost of this. So therefore, it's not something I want. And that is, I think, a useful approach or exercise for any of us that want to make changes, want to go through, is because far often it comes to the point where because you have thought about what you have to go through. So the challenges, the cost which you pay for your prize or your outcome, it makes it so much more bearable. So don't stick your head in the sand like an ostrich and go, I want to run a global business, but think that you don't have to deal with people, understand taxes, finance, people, risks, capital, money, yourself. You've got to lead it. You might not spend time with family. Like, all those things come into it. Again, if you just want to lose 10 kgs, it's like, are you prepared to wake up at 5 a.m.? No. Can you do a gym session between 7 and 8 in the day? 7 a.m., 8 p.m., because that's genuine work falls over? No. Then you're going to have to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning or 6 a.m. Are you prepared to do that? No. Then you're not going to lose 10 kgs unless you try fasting. Are you prepared to do fasting? Oh, I don't have the discipline. Okay, so you start to then understand that your end point of that 10 kgs is going to have many different routes, and you've got to find the route that you're prepared to go through. Your start point is your driveway. Your end point is London. You have to recognize what car you're in. Are you in a 4x4, a Porsche, a Lamborghini, a helicopter, a boat? You have to understand those things, because then your trail is either by air, by water, by off-roading. Why wouldn't you want to have a bit of fun on the way? It's on the motorway, it's on the back roads, it's through country roads. There's so many different options, and actually none of them are wrong. It's just which one suits you. Which one do you like the best? Which one do you want to go down? And all of those, I know it's a metaphor, right? All of those are options. And you would have heard this. There's nothing new about what I'm saying. This is more just a challenge that you can have your cake and eat it. You just have to know what you have to go through in order to have that cake. And I mean, we can go with the cake analogy. I was just thought about, like, the ingredients. It might be a cake made for 10 people. So therefore, you might not even want to eat all of it, or you might be just bloody starving, and you might have the capability to eat all the cake, and then you're going to eat it. And then you can put your middle finger up to anyone that said you couldn't have. All right. So I know, short, sharp, this isn't going to be new news to anyone. This is more just a challenge of going, or not a challenge, just an awareness. Guys, like, you can have your cake and eat it. Why let other people's opinions stop you from achieving what you want to do? Just remember, in order to get everything that you want, is going to be a hell of a effort of trial and error, failing and going and learning, and failing and going and learning, and failing and going and learning. And you've got to put yourself in that mentality to get that cake and to be able to eat it. So let's stop living our lives by other people's expectations, or other people's expectations that reinforce the excuses that we may not already be aware of in our own minds that stop us from getting what we want out of life and keep us playing small, right? Because you're only going to accept excuses or beliefs from others that you already believe in yourself. You just may not have recognized it. Okay, so realize that sometimes subconsciously, or the things that you're not aware of, just keeping my thing open, they are in your mind, ready to come up at the right time. And if you listen to other people's excuses or their reasons why you're not going to make it, and you agree with it, they're not at fault. You are. Not that there's a fault, but like the responsibility lies within you to realize that the reason you accepted their viewpoint is perhaps it sat somewhere in you in the first place. So the good thing is, it's like, okay, now we just got to change it within ourselves. And so when these limitations come up, and they will, and when you accept them, which you will, the difference is how long will it take you to recognize you've accepted a limitation, because it sneaks in there. And once you've accepted that limitation, how long does it take you to rejig that belief within yourself to keep going? Okay, so almost now think of every limiting belief that someone else puts on you, every opinion is a gift. The gift is either going to keep you going, or the gift is going to reveal to you what's within you that you haven't recognized already, that's going to stop you from achieving what you want to do. That's it. That was the moment that was supposed to come up. That was the insight that was supposed to come up from this challenge. So it actually wasn't, I'm hoping that you've gotten to this point in the podcast where you realize the cake, yeah, it's great, and we've heard it all before. But that realization there, it's a good one for me, is the beliefs, excuses, reasons you take in from others. It's easy to hate on them for having those, but actually, because you accepted them, those were within you. And so it's still within you to make the difference you want to make. Okay, Jim Rohn, watch your coffee. If you haven't heard it, go and listen. Go and ask ChatGTP, go and ask the internet, go and look on Google or Spotify, Apple, like Jim Rohn, watch your coffee, and watch him say it. I've said it on here before. I'm not going to say it again. Okay, cool. I'm going to end on that bombshell more for myself because that's enough. Okay, so have a great day. If you're listening to this on Friday, have a great weekend. Build a Hemingway Bridge. What can you do this weekend that leads you so well into Monday and next week, that next week becomes a defining moment in your future? You look back and you're like, yeah, I did that. Cool. Yeah. We're not just resting into the weekend. We're going to the weekend to recharge so that we can absolutely nail whatever we want to do next week. Like, let's break that rhythm that is like, oh, it's finally the weekend. Oh, I'm tired. I want to avoid it. And break that rhythm. Like, how can you create your future this weekend leading into tomorrow? What can you do today that's going to help you next week, Monday? All those things. Like, let's go. Let's get excited for life, right? Experience a buzz. You only get one. All that kind of stuff comes into it. Okay. Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. Have a great day.